YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today, guys, we're gonna showcase our very own Super Heavy Samurai deck profile for Master Duel. Now, like I said in my previous video when I tried it out in YugiOh Omega, we are gonna adapt this deck into Master Duel, of course, with the meta, with some similar problems, of course, with Maxi, Ash Blossom, the typical shenanigans, of course. So there are a couple of things you need to take note for the Super Heavy Samurai deck. You don't really use spell or trap cards for this one, so that's one downside for the deck because spell and trap cards are usually your utility cards for winning most of your games. Furthermore, two cards that are very famous, or basically three cards that are very famous hand traps that can counter this deck entirely, and that is basically the Maxi, a copy of Drill and Lockbird, and lastly a copy of Nibiru. Now we are also running our very own copies as well because this card doesn't really use spell and trap cards, like I said, so that the hand traps will be taking place of the spell and trap cards that you are missing from your deck. So furthermore, we are running 3 copies of each of the hand traps that are very significant. Effect Veiler, typically an imperm in a way, but it can only be used during your opponent's turn. Our very own Drill and Lockbird, it stops majority of most of the meta decks nowadays, so really important for the deck. Maxi, of course, very formidable. 2 copies of Ghost Ogre Snow Rabbit. Any card that activates on the field, we can pop it. 3 copies of Ash Blossom. 2 copies of Nibiru, of course. And our very own Gamma Seal. It's not really a hand trap, but Gamma Seal is basically a kaiju that we can use during our second turn. Also, a copy of Pancratops as an additional monster that you can summon to the field. Now, there are other versions where I use a copy of Tunneler and a copy of Ancient Gearbox, which is somewhat good in a sense, but as I've played so far with the deck earlier, it got me into some other trouble because Tunneler and a copy of Ancient Gearbox are typically bricks in a sense, so you don't want to run more bricks in your hand, of course. Although the best part about the Super Heavy Samurai deck is you always have like a starting engine that you can go into most of your plays. So what I mean by that is you always have a copy of Motorbike, a copy of Soul Piercer, a copy of the Wagon, and also a copy of the Prodigy. So like I said earlier, this deck is almost similar to the OCG deck that I have seen. The only difference is the Scythe that I did not place earlier when I pulled the cards out. So Artifact Scythe is kind of good with the deck, having to lock your opponent out from the extra deck, of course, but there are some issues with the Scythe. Mainly if you're going up against stun decks, it will fail so much. Second of all, Super Heavy is gonna have a hard time against Spectre Soul. You also have Kashtira. If they are going first, they will lock you out from the Pendulum Zone, so that's one big issue there as well. And I think there are a couple of decks that are meta relevant, and of course that are a really good counter for Super Heavy. Extra deck, we are running with 1 copy of the Sarutobi because we need to pop the copy of Scythe in our spell and trap card zone during our opponent's turn. 1 copy of the Savage Dragon, 1 copy of the Axel Synchron, Baron of War, 1 copy of Samurai Brave, our very own Baguska. If you ever get dropped by a Maxi, or a copy of Dimension Shifter, oh yeah, that one other card as well that stops Super Heavy Samurai combo is Dimension Shifter. 1 copy of Baguska, I said. 2 copies of the Scarecrow, very important for the deck, of course. 1 copy of the Genius, 1 copy of the Masquerena, 1 Dagda, 1 copy of Elf, 1 Unicorn, 1 Appaloosa, a copy of Underworld Goddess of the Close World. You can also change a copy of Goddess here with a copy of Axis Code. It's really up to you. Anyways, that is the Super Heavy Samurai deck. The maximum win streak that I had with the deck is basically 7 overall. If you're not really in favor with the Scythe, since Scythe is basically a brick if you can't summon a copy of your Sarutobi to the field. But like I said, it's a really good floodgate if you're trying to go up against a deck that is more on extra deck focus. And with that, I think that is the deck profile for you guys. Let's go towards the replays and showcase to you guys how this deck really works. Alright, so let's go. Alright guys, so here we are with the game replay. We got 1 Drill and Lockbird, 1 copy of Soul Horns, 1 Motorbike, 1 Snow Rabbit, and a copy of Scythe. So typically Scythe, if you don't have a card to pop this card on your hand, or on your field, I mean, then basically this is a brick. But if you manage to summon the Saratobi to the field, then that would be really good. But anyways, our starting hand will go for a motorbike here as our starter, getting a copy of Prodigy. Prodigy is always going to be your starting card, of course. If you don't have a copy of Prodigy and you have the motorbike, just search out the copy of Prodigy. But yeah, Big Bankai will be activated. Getting a hold of a copy of Soul Piercer, normal summon the Soul Piercer for a Scarecrow into Link Summon. Now Soul Piercer will be sent to the graveyard, getting a copy of Wagon. Scarecrow will dump a copy of Wagon, Spells will summon it to the field, and then Wagon will use its effect, gaining access to the Soul Peacemaker. Attach it to the Scarecrow to remove the monster from the extra monster zone. Spell summoning the Scales to the field, and then Scales will spell summon the Soul Piercer. Once those two cards are on the field, we go for Genius here, so that we can just pendulum summon to the arrows the cohort Genius is pointing to. So with that, we summon the Axel Synchro to the field. I was trying to summon the bike to the field, but we got impermed here. Also, Prodigy, once used as a synchro material, it will be placed back into the pendulum zone if you choose to. But usually, we need to put Prodigy there so that we can pendulum summon. So that, when Genius is activated, get a copy of Regulus for an Omni Negate. Now, I could have gone here with a copy of Elf here and then going towards the bike and then going towards the Baron Floor, but it's still fine. I do prefer getting access to the Saratobi, because we have the site on hand just for a floodgate here. So there we go, Saratobi to the field, setting our site, and on our opponent's draw phase, we use the effect of Saratobi, pop the site, and spell summon the site to the field. Now, typically there are a couple of issues here. If this site will be banished, you can't spell summon it to the field, the effect won't resolve. So take note of that one. Bishop is still very prominent with the current meta nowadays, so especially with Vanadium or a copy of or branded decks. So take note of that one. So typically like a 50-50 chance if you manage to summon this to the field. So take note of that one. But there we go. We're going up against Kashtira's. Spell summon the bike just in case. Our guy's trying to prompt the effect of Regulus here, but to no avail. He went for a copy of Theosis and just negate that one, and that's basically it. I think he scooped here, if I'm not mistaken. No, I think that didn't scoop here. He went for evenly match here. I want to save the copy of Axel Synchro because I got a Prodigy on hand basically, so it's still perfectly fine. So Prodigy to the Pendulum Zone, you get a copy of another Big Bankai, spell summon to the field, and with that we go for a copy of our very own Brave Masurawu, which we can just use it with a copy of our Soul Horns. So Soul Horns effect, attack twice if it is attached to a Superheavy Samurai. So that is game number 1, boys and girls. Let's go for game number 2. Alright guys, so game number 2 guys, we're going second. We don't really have a really good starter here, but we got a ton of hand traps and yeah, a ton of negates. Well, 1 or 2 negates or interruptions. So 1 Effect Vader Maxi, 1 Joyous Spring, 1 Gamma Seal, and a copy of Nibiru. So typically we are still good to go if we get negated once. Our guy is gonna use Punks. I think this is another variant here where he's using Bishels, but we'll just negate the effect of Ziamin here. I think that's basically his play there. I think he bricked on a 50 card deck, or 60 card deck I mean. So setting 1 card. Now I'm pretty cautious if that is a copy of the Punk trap card, so I just have to Gamma Seal the monster just so that he can't use the effect. Our guy is gonna use Maxi. We dump a copy of Ash Blossom to negate his Maxi, and with that we we drew into a copy of Prodigy here, which was pretty good. Did we draw into a copy of, yeah, we drew into a copy of Prodigy. So we do the same combo here, the typical combo for a Super Heavy Samurai deck. We just fast forward this one because I think you already know what happens here. Wagon added to the hand, dropped by a copy of Scarecrow. Scarecrow will spell summon the Wagon, get a copy of Soul Peacemaker, and typical stuff. So at this point, this is basically your board, and you will decide where or what monster to summon to the field. But yeah, typically we're just gonna do this. So with that, I think I made a mistake here. Basically, Because I meant to go for another monster that can go with that can summon the Masurao or even a copy of Baron the Floor, but I was very curious on the back row, so that's why I really wanted to summon the Saratobi. But it was just a super poly. It was kind of dangerous though, but yeah, luckily it was kind of okay. So there you go, going for a copy of our very own Sprite Elf. Sprite Elf to the field. Get a copy of the motorbike, use the effect of the motorbike, increase its level, and we go for a copy of our Masurao. I really like the card though because it has a 4,000 defense, which you can use for an attack. Regardless, I think we still lack damage here. I couldn't like deal more damage at this point on. It would be better if we got a copy of the Soul Horns here, but yeah, sad to say. We couldn't put that card to the graveyard, or the Soul Peacemaker to the graveyard, or Piercer, I mean, to the graveyard. But yeah, our guy's gonna go for Awakening, and we negate that one. So that's basically his game plan there. Alright, so I never thought that guy was using Blue Eyes, but regardless, we are on game number 3, and we have a 1 Drool and Lockbird, 1 Motorbike, 2 copies of Wagon, and a copy of Nibiru here. So we're going second. So at least we got Drool and Lockbird here. So our guy's gonna add a copy here. This is Evil Eye. So at least I know the deck by far because we tried this one with the Gold Pride a while ago. So our guy's gonna go for Triple Tactics Talent. I'm not really afraid if he Triple Tactics Talent me and look at my card to remove the copy of the Motorbike. The problem here is typically he has a ton of protection with the Field Spell and a copy of Evil Eye Selene. So my main goal here is to remove the Selene, because that is my main issue with the Evil Eye deck. But we can't actually go for lethal here at this point because we still lack resources, and we didn't get a copy of what you call this. Yeah, the Prodigy. But still perfectly fine. Our monster got negated, so we can't do anything else but exhaust more materials from our extra deck to actually get the second copy of Scarecrow to the field. So it was typically a hard choice for me, but that's basically what I need to do just to remove the copy of Selene, because this guy is protected because of the Selene, and then this guy is going to be protected as well because of the field spell. So, or I'm going to deal damage as well equal to what I dealt to him. So better just remove Selene first and foremost. There we go, drop the copy of that, and Soul Piercer will be activated as well, getting a copy of Prodigy for the next turn, getting a copy of Selene, attack the guy, and that is basically it. End phase, so still have Maxi, which is kinda not really the best of, you know, to counter Evil Eye, but luckily this guy bricked on the draw. So at this point, we are free to move, go for Prodigy, normal summoning it, and get a copy of Soul Piercer, and there we go. Real summon that monster, getting a copy of the Soul Booster. Booster will be equipping to the wagon. Special summon it. My gosh. And then we have a level 12 fodder to the field, or monster to the field, I mean, from the 3 monsters as used as a fodder. And with that, with the Soul Piercer, gaining access to the Soul Horns, gaining access to an OTK. So, yes sir, attack twice, and that is the game. So here we are guys with our last game, and we have 1 copy of Drool and Lockbird, 2 Ash Blossoms, 1 Scales, which is very bad because we don't want to see this one on our hand, and 1 copy of Soul Piercer. So we only have like a starter with Soul Piercer, but regardless, our opponent is going first, going for Pathfinder. So we're up against Kashtiras here, or the new updated Kashtiras with 1 Fenrir and 1 Birth. So he doesn't have a follow-up here. So I was really hoping that I can go for an OTK here. But I think we got drilled at this point on. So there we go. Soul Piercer to the field. Linking it off for a Scarecrow. Soul Piercer will gain access to our Prodigy. And since we added the Prodigy to our hand, he will dump a copy of Drool and Lockbird. Use the effect of Scarecrow. Spell summon the wagon to the field. Since we can't do anything about it. So typically just have to summon the monster to the field. with a Soul Piercer, and sadly, Soul Piercer can't access more cards because of the Drool and Lockbird. Like I said earlier, one of the downsides for this deck is also Drool and Lockbird. So what we can do just now is just attack for 4k. I know it's not really like the best of choice, but that is basically what I just did. So our guy is gonna normal summon Rise Heart here, going for Theosis. Luckily we had the last Ash Blossom on hand, so we negate that one. And since he activated a spell card or a trap card, we can draw until we got 3 cards, I think. Well, I think that's the secondary effect. If you draw until you have 3 cards in your hand, yeah, that's a last effect for Masurawu. But we got, yeah, he negated and then he ended his turn, or he surrendered, I mean. So those were the replays. Tell me your thoughts on the deck. I am not really a fan favorite with the Floodgates, but regardless, it's still perfectly fine. It is kind of optimized rather than a ton of bricks that I did with the YugiOh Omega. Anyways, that is it for today. Keep safe, good luck. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. We'll check out the other archetypes in the near future. Alright, so see you guys later. Bye-bye.